space, maybe Ireland, maybe England. But poetry transcends. That's why we say no, poets have universal appeal. Now why do we say poets have universal appeal? Because it transcends, it goes beyond, it doesn't understand, or it doesn't care or doesn't bother about the boundaries of our so-called realistic life. I think that's where the difference between prose drama and poetic drama lies. Now, challenges of poetic drama. Now, sometimes we wonder, now can we just make dialogues poetic and we can make any drama poetic drama? Is it possible? Now, there are certain challenges that we have to remember. One is the very effect, or let's say the power of poeticity. It seems very difficult to write poetic drama because reality is always odds with the limitation of verse form. See, when we say poetry has universal appeal, it does not mean that poetry can articulate, can speak, can voice each and every experience of life. Sometimes experiences are so harsh, so realistic that we may not like to face them. Now at that time, poetry which is something lyrical, something very flowery, something very rhythmatic, it get odds. There is some discrepancy, there is some mismatch there. So we have to, as let's say readers, as students of literature, when we read any verse drama, try to find out the theme, the content, whether it matches with the poeticity, or it is something down, something very realistic or ordinary topic that poet dramatist is unnecessarily trying to make it verse drama. Because sometimes it happens that poet keeps one particular form in mind and then write drama. Now that occurs problem, because remember Anton Chekhov said, it is not whether we write in old forms or new forms. It largely depends on whether you write something that comes from your soul. I think that is very significant. And remember, it is always practice that precedes theory. Practice is always before theory. So when you read a particular drama, let's say by Eliot or Fry or by anybody, try to see whether this particular reality and poeticity go hand in hand, or there is some kind of mismatch. And that is why it is a stylistic challenge. So poet has to be very conscious of his words, his meters, and the overall style, overall his own flair, own his personal touch to that particular drama. I think that makes any verse drama worth reading or worth enacting. So that's why it is a stylistic challenge. Thirdly, poetry in poetic drama should know its limit. I think very necessary. Sometimes poets get carried away with so much of emotions and so much of aesthetics. So they try to impose पोएट्री ऑन ड्रामा, एंड उससे क्या होता है, वो उस पर लाद देते हैं. सो पोएट्री may not work as effectively as it should in drama. As we discussed that poetry and drama, there should be a fruitful union, and similarly drama using poetry language should not be obsessed with lyricism and less dramatic. So it should be equally dramatic. Sometimes under the pretext of, or under the load of highly bombastic words or poetic words, or let's say simile, metaphor, symbols, action gets subdued, thoda minor ho jati action, which is going against the very nature of the drama. Because remember, the soul of any drama is action. Until and unless there is action, there is no possibility of drama. Now there are plays, we do remember Shelley, there are his plays which are not possible for enactment, but still for its let's say mental enactment, we need some kind of action. So under the pretext of poeticity, no drama should get carried away with poeticity. So thus both have reciprocal roles. Reciprocal means poetry should know its limit, drama should know its own limit, and they should help each other. They are complementary, they are helping each other to produce a new effect. Now it's not something drama does not remain drama with this poeticity, even poetry does not remain poetry with this dramatic elements. With this two mixture, something new is emerging. So poetic, when we study, when we read poetic drama, a new kind of mindset is needed to understand it, because we already have our preconceived ideas जो हमने पहले से सोच रखा है कि ड्रामा अच्छा इसमें ये सारी चीज़ें तो होगी, देन पोइट्री दिस 1 2 3 4 पॉइंट्स हैज़ टू बी देयर, दोनों को मिला दो, देयर विल बी पोएट्री ड्रामा. नो, it is not going to be like this so simple, because you are talking about a new genre and particularly in a new context. Okay, because in 20th century we are reading Eliot's Murder in the Cathedral. So why does Eliot has to go back to 12th century and and to fetch his theme from there? I think we have to understand that dynamics. I think all the nuances that are there. Sometimes we say that all texts are open for multiple interpretations, so I have every right to interpret that the way I like. But always remember, you are free to interpret the text the way you like, but within or to the extent the text allows, not beyond that. When you try to decontextualize text, there are its own problems, there occurs its own very strange problems. So when you read a poetic drama, try to see whether drama and poetry meet, is there happy marriage, or it's a kind of mismatch. Now let's see Eliot's art of let's say poetic drama, how he kind of envisages his whole idea of reviving poetic drama, that too in 20th century. See, Eliot said, we must find a new form of verse which shall be as satisfactory a vehicle as blank verse was for the Elizabethans. Here Elizabethan means Elizabethan poets who lived and wrote during Elizabethan time, during Elizabethan England. And remember, Elizabethan time was known as very famous cliched line, nest of singing birds, and those birds had a very handy tool called blank verse. I hope you are familiar with what is blank verse, so I am not going in detail with what is blank verse and heroic couplet. You can easily find those terms in your very famous book, A Glossary of Literary Terms by M.H. Abrahams. So T.S. Eliot says we have to find new form of verse. So he is, remember, when we read T.S. Eliot, we have to be familiar with his essay called The Tradition and the Individual Talent, wherein he says, on one hand, we all are a part of an ongoing tradition, but on the other hand, we have our own respective roles to play. Now here he is trying to relate his theory with his practice. He says we must find a new form of verse which shall be as satisfactory a vehicle as blank verse for the Elizabethans. So he is not merely imitating, copying the tradition. He is trying to come up with something new and adding it to the tradition. I think that's where he remains successful. He is not a failure. Secondly, avoiding any echo of Shakespeare, Eliot preferred versification of Everyman. Everyman is one of the miracle plays during Middle Ages. So he is trying to imitate that. He did not want to write in high style and in the manner of heroic drama. Okay, so many times when we talk about drama, only one figure that comes to our mind is Shakespeare. Many times we go to such an extent that Shakespeare is god of drama, or he is just epitome of English drama. So for everybody, for all successive dramatists, Shakespeare becomes one of the examples, one of the ideals to follow. But remember, Eliot is a very, very, very special and unique intellectual who does not believe in a kind of blind imitation. He wants to go ahead, so he does not believe in kind of new or high style. Yes, he says he doesn't want to write in a manner of heroic drama, which is something grand, wherein splendor is attached to there. But see, the life of 20th century is lacking that grandeur, is lacking that kind of splendor or grandness. So you have to appeal to the audience. You can remember examples of movies. Why do movies like the very famous like Dabangg, Wanted get hits? Because it appeals to the larger audience. And why do certain movies which appeal to a particular class of moviegoers fail, or they don't succeed, or they don't earn money? Because when as movie makers, they have to be very cautious, very careful about what is the demand. What is the demand? So the demand in 20th century is not that of heroic, but Eliot's role is that of Wordsworthian. He says, and what was the Wordsworth role? We all remember the Wordsworth emphasis on the simplicity of language, language of layman, and that is a return to everyday speech, a sharing of decorative, pictorial and static elements, very simple, that any Tom, Dick and Harry sitting or living in next village can understand. So that's where I think Eliot picked up that element. Okay, let me just try and go for the simple one. Otherwise, we have example of his Westland, which is though later production, but we can see the height or the extent to which Eliot can use language. But here he remains very simple and very terse, and you see, you love to read his language. So we will talk about language of his verse drama. Yeah. So in a poetic drama, he says, if the poetic drama is to reconquer its place, it must, in my opinion, that is in Eliot's opinion, enter into overt competition with prose drama. People should be made to hear it, that is verse, from people dressed like ourselves, living in houses and apartments like ours, and using telephones and motor cars and radio sets. Means it's not poets and writers and playwrights, they are not sitting somewhere above. So Eliot puts a big cross on this whole hegemonic stand of poets and poets, especially poets and dramatists, who are always considered to be above and they are looking down and right. No, he says they are, our audience are people like us, wearing similar clothes, residing in similar homes, they are having cars, radio sets. So he is actually appealing to his contemporary playwrights to keep all his people in audience or spectator in mind, so that they can write accordingly. And that's why he can say, he says, by this means we can revive it. We can revive its earliest position of the verse drama. Now let us see Murder in the Cathedral as an example of verse drama. We will be looking at various aspects of Murder in the Cathedral with special reference to the issues that we discussed about the language, about the meter and all of them. I hope you are familiar with the story, or shall I tell you briefly? It is about killing of Thomas Becket. Okay, he is a pope, and why does king wants to kill him? Because king asks certain demands. He wants church and pope and clergymen under the direct control of the state, where this Thomas Becket, Saint Thomas Becket, opposes it. He denies it. He says, no, we want to be free, and that's how the conflict rises. And finally, at the end of the second part of the play, play is divided into two parts, and the second part, at the end of the second part, this Thomas Becket is killed, and so that is why it is the Murder in the Cathedral. So let us see how it is a verse drama. Now, with aim in this view, which aim? Aim of using simple language, aim of keeping audience, the kind of audience in mind. Eliot set to work and succeeded in discovering a flexible medium for his first great play, Murder in the Cathedral. And poetry is a prominent feature in this play, and especially in the choral song, it attains splendor and stateliness appropriate to the lofty sentiment inherited in the spiritual theme, that is martyrdom. Now remember, you have to always ask one simple question: why does any poet use meter in his or her poems? Why? See, apparent answer is it gives rhythm. For example, when we sing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, How I Wonder What You Are," or let's say William Blake's "Tiger, Tiger, Burning Bright in the Forest of the Night," it has a particular rhythm. So one of the functions of any meter is it adds rhythm, and rhythm adds music, and with the help of music we can memorize poems. And that's how I think poems have always been very special and unique for everybody, from king to any ordinary layman. right? Because they are easy to remember. We do remember so many nursery rhymes, and that's why we do remember film songs, because they are oral in nature, there is music, there is singability is there, right? So that is one of the functions. But the second function, and very significant, friends, is meters appeal to particular emotions of the poem, of the tone of the poem. For example, epics are written in certain meters, let's say hexameter, because there is certain grandness, there is certain splendor is there, wherein lyrics, let's say sonnets, are written in the, let's say, iambic pentameter. Okay, so because they have their own, let's say love has different meter, let's say elegies are written in different meters, because that sadness, that melancholy requires different treatment, different tools. Whereas epics, like say Mahabharata, Ramayana, Iliad, Odyssey, all of them are written in certain style, certain manner, in certain meter. So meter has this very unique function, especially in poetry. And when we read Eliot's Murder in the Cathedral, yes, we need to focus on these meters, because when we say verse drama, it is verse. Okay, it is poetry that matters most to us as students of literature. So it's very prominent, especially something very magical in Eliot, that he puts in the mouths of his chorus, and the best thing that you can find in this the Murder in the Cathedral is the chorus, the way they speak, the language. I mean, you get smitten, you get just mesmerizing language and mesmerizing appeal. So when you, even if you don't watch the play, when you read with all tone, intonation, rhythm, you start getting that feeling. You start getting that feeling of what is actually happening in the play. So meters are tools through which we can see the play happening, even if it is not enacted on the stage. So someday you can ask your teacher to talk about meters. What is the function of meter in poetry, and that too in drama, right? Yeah, and especially